The snow had just begun falling over Fifth Avenue when Jonathan Blake heard the smallest voice call out to him that he almost ignored it. At 37, Jonathan was conditioned not to listen to the city, the noise, the requests, the distractions that slowed down his relentless pursuit of success. His phone was in his hand, his driver on speed dial, his mind already on tomorrow's million-dollar negotiations, but that tiny voice, thin, trembling, cut through the cold. "Excuse me, sir." Jonathan turned, expecting a lost tourist or a panhandler. Instead, he found a little girl standing alone in the snow. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old. Her red blonde curls spilled out from under a knit cap too thin for winter. Her cheeks were raw with cold. Her boots were too big, her coat too worn, and fear filled her wide blue eyes. "I can't wake up my mom," she whispered. Those 5 words froze Jonathan Blake in place. She hadn't been lost, she hadn't been begging, she had walked straight into the darkness of the city searching for a stranger to save her mother's life. Within minutes, the billionaire who owned half of downtown would be racing through narrow streets to a rundown apartment, holding the small, trembling hand of the bravest child he had ever met. That he had no idea that night would not only change her life, it would save his too. The snow fell quietly over Fifth Avenue as Jonathan Blake stepped out of yet another late-night business meeting. At 37, he had mastered exhaustion, negotiations, boardrooms, private cars, penthouse nights. It was all routine now. His commercial development empire was worth hundreds of millions, yet there he stood alone beneath city lights, silver flecks creeping into his dark hair, collar turned up against both cold air and emotional distance. Jonathan lifted his phone to call his driver. That was when he heard it. "Excuse me, sir." The voice was soft, nearly swallowed by falling snow. He turned. A little girl stood on the sidewalk, clutching the straps of a green backpack far too big for her small frame. Reddish blonde curls peeked out beneath a thin knit cap. Her cheeks were wind-burned, eyes glassy with fear. Something about her stopped him instantly. He crouched. "Are you lost, sweetheart?" She shook her head slowly, lips trembling. "I can't wake up my mom." The word sent a shock through his chest. "What do you mean?" "She's on the floor, by the couch. I tried and tried. She won't move." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She said, "If anything bad ever happened, I should go find help. Everyone keeps walking past me." Jonathan swallowed. "I'm Jonathan," he said gently. "What's your name?" "Sophia." "Sophia," he repeated softly. "Can you show me where your home is?" She hesitated, then slipped her mittened hand into his. Her fingers were freezing. They walked past glittering storefronts into neighborhoods that slowly lost their shine, broken windows, cracked sidewalks, poorly lit doorways. Finally, they stopped at a narrow brownstone divided into apartments. Sophia unlocked the door with a key tied on a string around her neck. 2 flights of stairs later, they entered a small apartment that smelled faintly of peppermint and medicine. Children's drawings covered one wall, taped in bright colors. A small decorated Christmas tree glowed softly near the window, but Jonathan barely noticed any of it. A woman lay motionless beside the couch. Jonathan rushed forward, pressing fingertips to her neck. A pulse, faint, but there, her skin burned with fever. He dialed 911. As he waited, he noticed a stack of overdue medical bills, a nearly empty prescription bottle, and a wall calendar showing double shifts marked in red ink almost every day. The paramedics arrived within moments. "She's in diabetic shock," one explained. "Looks like she's been sick and couldn't keep her medication down." "Your daughter did exactly the right thing." Sophia folded into Jonathan's coat. He held her as they wheeled her mother away. At St. Mary's Hospital, Jonathan sat awkwardly in an emergency waiting room chair with Sophia curled in his lap. A nurse handed her a juice box and crackers. She barely touched them. "Do you have family, sweetheart?" Jonathan asked. Sophia shook her head. "Just mommy." A social worker eventually approached. "Her mother will be okay," she said, "but with no relatives, Sophia will need foster placement until recovery." Jonathan stood instantly. "No, I'm sorry." "No," he repeated gently but firmly. She's staying with me. After tense conversations, emergency legal action, and the unusual heroism of a 4-year-old willing to walk into a snowstorm alone, an exception was approved. Jonathan Blake became temporary guardian. That night in his penthouse, everything felt wrong. The refrigerator held craft beer and leftovers, nothing fit for a child. That he created a blanket nest beside the oversized guest bed because Sophia said it was too big and made her feel lost. As she curled under layers of soft blankets, she reached out timidly. Jonathan, can you stay till I sleep? He sat beside her on the floor. My mommy sings, she whispered. But I know you probably don't know the songs. Jonathan's throat tightened as he hummed a lullaby he hadn't sung since his mother died. Sophia slept within minutes. Jonathan didn't move for an hour. He realized how silent his life had been. The next days changed everything. Jonathan cleared his calendar. He shopped for child-sized clothes, discovered the magic of dinosaur nuggets, learned what toothbrushes worked best for stubborn 4-year-olds. They visited Rebecca, the mother, daily in the hospital. She worked herself sick, the doctor said quietly. She was afraid to miss work. Rebecca cried when she learned how Sophia found help. I've tried so hard, she told Jonathan weakly. Everything I do for her. Jonathan nodded. I know. He told her about his own childhood, how his single mother had worked herself to exhaustion. How he'd built wealth but almost lost himself. On the day Rebecca was discharged, Jonathan made a bold offer. You and Sophia can move into one of my buildings, he said. No rent. Rebecca protested. Then Jonathan added, and I need a building manager. Flexible hours. Fair pay. Insurance. Rebecca stopped arguing. I'll accept, on one condition. Jonathan waited. I earn it. He smiled. Deal. 3 months later, Jonathan sat in a crowded school gym watching tiny dancers twirl across the stage. Sophia stumbled into another kid, and laughed before spotting him in the crowd and waving wildly. Rebecca squeezed his hand. I don't know how to repay you. You already did, Jonathan said. You raised someone extraordinary. Jonathan silenced his buzzing phone mid-email notification. Success could wait, family couldn't. That night, snow fell again as they drove home. Sophia peered out the window. It looks like the night I found you, she said softly. Jonathan met Rebecca's eyes in the mirror. No, sweetheart, he whispered, that was the night you found me. And in that quiet moment, snow drifting, laughter filling the car, Jonathan Blake finally understood what true wealth meant. It wasn't power. It wasn't money. It was the privilege of being needed by someone brave enough to ask for help.